In this video, I want to talk about deployment solutions for Impact. As you see here, I have I have a Dropbox folder here with all of my Impact games. The game I'm going to talk about is Resident Raver. So this is actually Super Resident Raver, which is a modification of the Resident Raver game that I go through in my book. And as you see, we have a basic setup here of an Impact game. The one thing to take note of is that I have this build XML file here. So if we go into the code editor real quick, I will talk to you about some of the deployment solutions that I have. So coming from a Flash background and doing Java, I tend to prefer using Ant to do some of my automation. I've also been playing around a lot with Node.js, but Ant just wound up being a very quick and easy solution for what I wanted to do. And one of the coolest parts about Impact is that it actually runs pretty much anywhere you may want to have people play your game. So to give you an example, we look at the builds here that I'm doing in my build script. We have a web solution. So this is for playing it directly in the web browser. We have an iOS solution. So we can package this up as a native iOS game. There's a Windows 8 solution for building out a Metro app. There is a Chrome solution for submitting to the Chrome market. I've been toying around with a Mozilla build now for the new Mozilla Firefox market that was announced. And if another build comes out that I need to add, I can quickly add support to it through my build script. So I thought I'd walk through real quick how this goes. If we take a look here in my main project, I have my Impact directory on my local server. I go through into Resident Raver here. And if I went directly into the Impact project, my game would load up and run. So there's nothing fancy here. What we're going to do is I'll show you real quick. If you take a look here on my terminal, I've actually CD'd into my Dropbox, my development folder, Impact, and I'm in Super Resident Raver. If I run Ant, it's going to go through, and first it's going to compress the whole game, which is baking it, and then it's going to go through and build out each version of the game for me, and then it gives me a total time of how long it ran. So once this is actually executed, you'll get a deploy directory in your game folder. And as you see, I've broken up each platform by its own requirements. So in this case, Chrome needs a zip file. If I actually open up this zip file, you'll see inside of it is going to be my manifest JSON file, which is what Chrome uses as part of the package. So my build script is automatically zipping this up for me. As you see, I have an iOS build. I could dump this directly into my Xcode project. I have a Mozilla build. I have a web build. This I can deploy directly to my web server. And I have a Windows 8 build, which again, I can simply copy over into my Visual Studio project. So if we take a look real quick at how this build script works, you'll see that I'm just doing some very simple stuff here. First off, I have a pre-build script where I delete the deploy folder and then I create a new deploy folder. And then I also have a post-build script which just goes through and cleans up a few things that isn't needed after we do the build. I also have a bake target here, and what this bake target will do is it will execute the PHP file that bakes the game. So if you're not familiar with how Impact's baking works, it's just a PHP file that goes through, takes all your JavaScript code and compresses it into a single file so that you can distribute your game easier. So we just take advantage of Ant's ability to execute scripts through the command line. So we execute the PHP script for baking. As you see here, this is the bake script. Then I just tell it, compress the entire ImpactJS library and compress my main game. And this bake script automatically parses through these two JavaScript files, sees any of the required classes that are needed, and adds them into your main file. And then the output here is going to be a game.mini.js. So with that in mind, it's really easy to set up different builds now. So my web build, I create a web directory. I sync all of the contents of my Impact game over to the web directory. You'll notice that I'm excluding tools and libraries, and I'm excluding the Weltmeister HTML because I don't need any of that stuff. I also do a quick regex that goes through and looks at the script block. So if we look at our index file here, what we're going to want to do is we need to replace these two import statements with our minified JavaScript. So I've added this comment here, source scripts and end source scripts. And if you look here, this is just a regex statement that goes through, finds that code block, and then it'll simply replace it with the minified JS path. And then finally, I also copy over the CSS for the debugger in case I want to debug this in the script. My iOS build is really easy. All I do is sync all of my files over to my iOS directory. Same thing with Windows 8. And then the Chrome build follows a similar suit. Here I am creating a Chrome directory. I copy over my web directory that is automatically created. And then from there, I'm creating a manifest file, and I'm just having Ant echo out into the contents of that file the name of the project, the description, versions, the paths to the icons, and then just some other metadata that is used by Chrome Market. As you see here, once we're done, we just zip up the entire project, and I use the project name and project version as its file name, and then I'm able to delete any of the temporary files I was using for Chrome. And the Mozilla build is very similar. It's just the web directory, and from there I'm also making a manifest that's specific to the Mozilla market. So once that runs, like I said, if I actually back out of this and go into my Resident Raver and I look at deploy, you see I can just go straight into web, and this right here is ready to go up onto my server. So some of the other cool stuff I should point out is that you can also run your games natively on iOS by packaging them up. So Impact comes with an iOS wrapper that lets you just drop your JavaScript code in. Of course, you need to do some things in order to allow for touch controls. As you see here in my game, I'm automatically testing if it's iOS, and then I bind touch controls. But if I was to run this game right now in the iPhone simulator, so my Ant build just copies over the JavaScript files that I need into my Xcode project. When I run this and we launch the simulator, let me get back over to the simulator here. You'll see here is my game, and I have touch controls enabled, so I can go around and test my game. This actually works really well when you also have a device connected. And what's good about this workflow is that I can still work on the web version and have it automatically update and move over to my Xcode project. Another thing to show you is that because I have the touch controls in place, if I was to go to my website where I'm hosting the game on my GameCook site, I have the web page automatically show touch controls, so the game is still touch enabled. And the beauty of this is that I'm able to use the same code base across multiple platforms. So I can target native iOS, I can target web for desktop and for mobile, and this works really well on Windows 8. Everything on Windows 8 is hardware accelerated, so HTML applications, HTML Metro apps, are actually first-class citizens on the operating system. So this game runs really well, and the best part is that since it uses web standards, you get the same controls. So I don't have to modify the code based on each platform. I just have to make sure that I add a few lines of code in that know when it uses touch controls and when it doesn't use touch controls. So that is the basic workflow of how I get my games across all my multiple platforms. So the one thing that I do also want to show you is that the last thing is that I actually have this packaged up as a Chrome Market app. So if I was to go into the Chrome Web Store and look for Resident Raver, as you see here, I can launch the app, and this is just submitted to the store like any other app would be submitted. And once you have it installed, it just shows up in your browser and it's ready to go. So same exact file as I'm using on the web, but it's just been formatted here to work in the Chrome market. If you'd like to learn more about how I'm using Ant, you can go to my website at jessefreeman.com/writing and look for automating impact builds with Ant. This is a really good tutorial that I wrote up that goes through in a lot more detail about how I'm using Ant, how I create a matrix of different platforms, and outline what parts of the core code I need to modify for each platform, how I need to package it, what type of controls, any optimizations I need to do, and notes, so that I can assess whether a platform is worth me investing my time in. And it also goes through the Ant build in a lot more detail. So hopefully you found this interesting, and I highly suggest, if not using Ant, some sort of automation tool to help you deploy your code, because, like I said, take advantage of the ability for Impact to run on all these different platforms. It's silly just to think of it as a web game only. You can do so much more with it, so take advantage of it.